Rather than try to go back through anything that you heard tonight in the presentation, I think what I'd like to do is maybe just talk a little bit about what I think Ambit's about. Because Jerry and I were talking about this at lunch a couple of days ago. You saw that slide that came up for the residual income up here that said $39,000. We actually are thinking about taking that slide out of the presentation. Because I don't know if you noticed it, but when it came up, how quiet it got in the room. Nobody believes it. And we've gotten to the point now where we're concerned that it affects the credibility of this presentation, because I think people can't wrap their head around that number, and really that's not what Ambit's about for us. We have people that make that every month in this business. That's great, and more power to them. But what we started Ambit for, one of the things, the very first things that we said when we sit down and talk about what kind of company we wanted to make, what we wanted to build, we said that we wanted to create an opportunity where the average person could earn enough every single month to pay all their expenses. And for us, that meant financial freedom. People had the ability to literally have enough money coming in every single month in residual income to pay their car bill, their mortgage, all of their expenses, and not have to work for that money. And so as I go around the country and talk to people in our business and guests who are coming to look at it for the first time, I ask them that question. I used to say, what is it that you're doing Ambit for? What's your why? And I've stopped doing that because I realize that people answer that question, and usually it's with a real short-term goal. And so it's like, well, I've got a lot of credit card debt, I'm trying to pay it off. Or we're trying to work to save up enough money to put our kids through school. All good reasons, but not necessarily a long-term thing. And so I've changed the question. Now what I say is I ask them, if you didn't have to get up tomorrow and go to work ever again, didn't need the money, what would you do with your time to make a difference? And it's so funny because when I ask that question, people just give you this, they just go, they don't know what to say to that. They've never even conceived of a life that they could have where they could just decide when they get up what they want to do today to make a difference. And see, the thing is, the answer to that question, whatever it is for you, that I think is what you were created on this planet to do. Not what you get paid to do, not what you have to trade your time for money so that you can meet your obligations to do, but what you really in your heart want to do. I think that's what you were created for, and I think that's what you got to have an opportunity to do. And for me, that's what Ambit's all about. Well, this is just a vehicle. This isn't about electricity. It's about helping people figure out what it is they're passionate to do and give them a vehicle so that they can buy their time back and go do it. And what you saw tonight is a business that we spent a lot of time and put a lot of care into building to allow people to have an opportunity to do that. And understand, too, when I ask them that question, most people just sit there and stare at me for a long time because they've never thought about it. But here's one thing they never say. When I ask them what they would do if they didn't have to work anymore with their time to make a difference, they never say they'll buy more stuff. They never say, oh, I'll get something else. It's always the ones who finally think about it say, well, I've always had a heart for helping kids. Or, there's this park in my neighborhood that is just in complete disrepair. If I had the money and the time, I'd completely rejuvenate it. It's always something really cool and interesting and unique to that person. I was watching a movie on the plane. I watch movies now when I fly. I used to read, and then I was informed by my wife it caused two problems. One, we would fly to an Ambit event somewhere, and I would read a book, and in 10 minutes I'd be asleep. And then by the time we landed, I couldn't go to bed that night. So that's one reason I stopped. The other reason I stopped is I'm informed by her that I also snore so loud when that happens that I just completely ruined the flight for everybody around me. So now I watch movies. It keeps me awake on the plane. And I was watching this movie the other night on my way into Albany. And it's called Sound City. I don't know if any of y'all have heard it. It's a little documentary about this small recording studio outside of Cupertino, California, that started in the 70s by these two guys. They just bought this little kind of almost a industrial shack. It was just in really terrible disrepair. But they had this idea of making a recording studio out of it on these old analog, mixers with the tape and the whole 9 yards. And so their idea was, we're going to have to get somebody famous to come out here and record this, or we're never going to get our business going. And so they kept trying, and they had friends that were kind of on the fringe of the music scene. And so finally, one day they have this young couple that comes in and records their first album. And they're so broke that they're both doing other things, and you're watching this documentary and interviewing them. It's Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks. And Stevie Nicks is sitting there talking about how she's a maid for people who live in the area. And she's specifically decided to be a housekeeper in that area so she can be close to the studio. And I'm sitting there thinking, Stevie Nicks, can you imagine Stevie Nicks like cleaning your restroom in your house or doing your dishes? And Lindsey Buckingham, he was painting houses. But you listen to him talk, and they were so excited about making music. It was unbelievable how passionate they were about it. And so they didn't mind painting houses or being a housekeeper. And I was sitting there thinking, man, they would have been great Ambit consultants. because they knew what they wanted to do. All they needed was a real vehicle that would help them earn enough money so they could do it full time. And I guarantee if this thing had been put in front of them, they would have seen it and loved it, because they were willing to do whatever they want to do. And I'm watching this thing, and it goes on to talk about how Fleetwood Mac got started and made their first recording there, and then all these industry greats come in. And it's really, really interesting. But what it's really about is passion, human passion, and what people love to do. And so I think about our business, and I realize it's just a vehicle. But what you've seen tonight is a vehicle that works. And so you have a decision that you've got to make here. You're either already in our business and haven't really decided why you want to do it, or you're looking at it for the first time. And maybe you already know exactly what it is that you would want to do if you didn't have to work for the money. I hope you do, because it's an important question to ask yourself. And as soon as you find the answer to it, whatever you have to do to put yourself in a position to do it, you'll be willing to do it. And then the question is, what are you going to do? And what I'd submit to you tonight is the business that you've seen makes more sense than anything else you're going to find. Because we only do two things. We gather a handful of loyal customers and help other people do the same thing. And you do it over, 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 and you do it over. And over a period of time, your residual income grows and grows and grows and grows. And it grows in proportion to the work you put in it. And so it's a business that works. I don't have to repeat anything anybody else has said up here now. I'll just leave with this. I'm reading at the end of the year. I'm fascinated with people's New Year's resolutions. And so at the end of this year, I was reading a book. It's by an old Roman Stoic named Epictetus, and it's called The Art of Living. And I'm reading this thing, and I was fascinated by all of the information, the wisdom that's in this book. But there's a quote at the end that he says, the problem with people is that they spend all their life trying to find themselves or fix themselves when they should be creating themselves. And guys, we have the ability to create ourselves. We're unique in that regard. We can decide who we want to become, and then we can go do it. And all we need is a vehicle. And I'm telling you, saw one tonight. There's not a better one out there. And I think if everybody in Ambit Energy could see this business the way I see it, and had a why that they were so passionate about, they wouldn't let anything prevent them from going out and becoming the person that they want to be. I hope you guys will do that. I appreciate you having me out here tonight. Thank you.